This is going to be a part two to what's it called? The brown people are not the same as those from previous generations. Okay. Now I want to say what I saw. I want to say it was in 2021 when I saw this. So Jada Pinkett, it was this whole thing with August Alsina. Excuse me. And Jada Pinkett. It's late. And when it gets late, I start kind of breathing like this. Between August Alsina, Jada Pinkett, and Will Smith, and I guess, and all this stuff. And August Alsina, I guess, wanted to come forth and tell the truth, okay? I don't really know all the details because I'm going to be honest with you. I try not to get too deep into the business of other people, whether they're celebrities or anybody else. I try not to get too deep into their life because I got my own to deal with. And I have not perfected that one yet. So that's why I don't always get deep into everybody else's. But I do. That story was so that was so big that I still kind of heard about it. And here's the thing: what stood out is that Jada Pinkett said it was an entanglement. It was an entanglement. Okay, I want to talk about how she might not have done this. People might feel like this entanglement was really related to her and August Alsina and whatever orgies they decided to have. That could be, that's probably a logical way to look at it, right? A spiritual way to probably see it is that Jada Pinkett was probably telling you that there's a literal entanglement when it comes to the wires dealing with brown people in their connection, right? Because there's clearly kind of a separation, and brown people are kind of connected, right? Brown people are connected, and what's happened is that there has literally been an entanglement in the mental realm when it comes to brown people. I want to explain what I saw. Okay, so. And then somebody else kind of did a video talking about entanglement too. But then I want to talk about something I saw. Just like I see everything else. I just see it. I'm not purposely trying to meditate and see things. Sometimes I just see it. And what I saw is picture black yarn. This is how I saw it. Picture like if you would have bought black yarn from Michael's or wherever your craft store is. Okay, but the way I saw this yarn is like it was already taken out and taken loose. And it was all jumbled up. It was like all jumbled up and looped around and just jumbled. Like just imagine if you buy some black yarn from a craft store or wherever you buy it from. Just imagine taking all that yarn off, the black yarn off, because it's neatly wrapped, right? When you buy it, it's neatly wrapped. Just imagine taking all that yarn off and just jumbling it up where it's all just in loops and knots and all that stuff. This is what I saw, a black yarn that was all jumbled up, okay? And then next, I saw white yarn that was neatly wrapped. But then I saw where it was at the top of like when you buy yarn and it's like wrapped together, like you know how it looks. I saw at the top of that white yarn where it was starting to unravel, right? But this was in 2021 when I saw that, so I don't know what it would look like today. But I definitely saw what the white people, the yarn, it was still neatly wrapped as if the same way you would buy it from the store. But at the top, it was kind of starting to unravel, okay? But brown people, it was almost like they took all of that yarn, like they bought it, and it was once neatly wrapped, but when they took it, it was all taken It was like literally like you would take all of the yarn off and just jumble it up with your hand, just jumble it up and crisscross it and make it in knots and all that stuff. And that's represent what brown people are today. And this is represented kind of mentally where brown people are. But that is done on purpose. In my previous upload, I talked about how the mind does not belong to you, right? So that means that something else is controlling the mind, because the mind that we currently use is literally artificial intelligence. It's artificial to us. It might not be artificial to Europeans, okay? But it is artificial to a lot of brown people. It's artificial to a lot of brown people. Okay, that means that the intelligence that a lot of brown people are using are not the original soul. Like a lot of brown people, their original soul is their original intelligence. And a lot of intelligence that brown people we are using today is not our original intelligence. It's literally artificial intelligence, but it's not necessarily artificial intelligence to Europeans. Okay. So their intelligence is actually a lot of Europeans' original intelligence. Okay, and what I'm trying to say is that something else is, if it's artificial intelligence, right? That means other entities can get it and control it, right? They can control it, just like you see the artificial intelligence coming out now, right? But you also see where man can control that artificial intelligence that they're creating today. Well, in our fallen state, we started to use a different kind of mind, which the mind is an illusion. Okay, but we have started to use a different kind of mind, a different kind of intelligence that is not original to our original intelligence. Okay, and that type of artificial intelligence that a lot of brown people are using today, because we're in a very low vibrational fallen state that we have separated from our soul, we separated from our original intelligence. Other entities are controlling it, right? And because they want to make sure that brown people do not rise back up to who they were when they were at such a high vibration, they want to make sure at the mental level that they continue to stay confused, right? And this is done on purpose. Like they're literally pulling the strings. I remember seeing during a meditation where I saw all these brown people that appeared to be attacking each other. These brown people that just appeared to be attacking each other, throwing black magic at each other, doing all this stuff. And then I saw who was behind it. When I saw who was controlling the whole thing, I saw white men sitting together wearing black suits, right? That means that these are entities that's kind of controlling the fourth dimensional realm, and you could also probably call them archons, or they might be called the shadow government too. Who knows, right? But they are literally controlling things. Like they are controlling that mind, and a lot of them are behind the reason why a lot of brown people are so jumbled up like that. Okay, I saw it. Okay, when I saw that black yarn where it was all jumbled up, that was done by the government or the governors of the minds or other entities that's currently running this world that don't want these group of brown people to return back to who they were billions of years ago. So they're purposely trying to keep brown people at a low vibration. That is a reason for a lot of this music that has gone downhill, and while a lot of witchcraft seems to be thrown at brown people, using celebrities to put brown people under spells. That is on purpose to make sure they perpetually stay at a low vibration, and that they never rise up in vibration, because these, believe it or not, the brown people were at a much higher vibration and much more powerful than these entities that currently run the world today. But for somehow brown people I don't know if they fell into what they wanted, they fell into their desires. I don't know if they got bored, but they fell asleep and they fell so low in vibration that they fell like literally to the lowest portion of their subconscious mind. Like they literally fell into what's called Tartarus. Okay, and a lot of brown people are not even using their original intelligence, which would be their soul. They're using what's called the ego mind, which is really artificial intelligence. Okay, it's really artificial intelligence. And because that's what a lot of brown people use, you have other entities that can control that particular mind. And now they got a lot of brown people out that's all jumping up. And until brown people connect back to who they really are, they're going to remain in this state. So that is why I say a lot of brown people are not the same people. They're genetically not the same people. They're different people than they were before. But when I talk about genes, I'm not really talking about physical. I'm really talking about they have been separated from who they are. They have been completely separated from their true self. The brown people from previous generations were a little bit more closer to their true self, even though they had struggles with Jim Crow and all that stuff, and with a lot of more racial white supremacy. For the most part, a lot of them was still a little bit closer to their true selves than brown people are today. And that's what I mean is that brown people have been pulled so far away because of the purposely being pulled lower and lower in vibration, and that they are so far from, they are completely foreign to their true selves. And I also brought up the fact that most brown people today are clones. Okay, they have their consciousness has been completely hijacked, but this doesn't mean that they cannot come back to who they are. But it's going to take effort, and you have to. It's almost like it's going to take a fight to get back to who you are, because these people are not willing to give up the power over the minds of people, especially brown people. Okay, because brown people rising back up in frequency and becoming back to who they were means that these current folks are going to be overthrown, and they don't want that. Okay, they don't want that. And that's kind of the reason for this time loop keep happening, because their time was up decades ago. So I think that's kind of the reason why we keep having the time loops. It's all about these brown folks trying to keep them from rising up. Okay, but when I said there was some crash in 1986, there was a crash of 1986. Kind of look that up on Google if you want to. There was a crash of 1986, and that was what kicked off that time loop, okay? I remember listening to Bobby Hemmett. Bobby Hemmett said in 1986, that was when the Kundalini and a lot of brown people were supposed to rise. And it just so happened there was a crash in 1986 that caused a time loop. Go figure that. Is that a coincidence or what? Is that a coincidence or what? I'm almost feeling like every 9 years that's the time when a lot of brown people's Kundalini is supposed to rise. And I think around this time is the time again when brown people's Kundalini is supposed to rise again. And I feel like this is why it's such a fight and it's such an effort to keep dumbing brown people down. Anyway, this was just a part 2. And I only made a part 2 to describe how I saw that yarn, the black yarn, compared to the white yarn, okay? And how it's being purposely done. It's done by there's literally puppet masters, and I saw them looking like white men wearing black suits. Those are literally puppet masters. This is not necessary to make too many excuses for brown people, because a lot of brown people are not family like they think they are. A lot of brown people are enemies to each other, okay? So this is not to completely make excuses, okay? But I also said that in my the part 1 of this upload too. But yeah. Excuse me, it's late. Uh, but yeah, I really think that it is time for the Kundalini to rise again, and that's why so much is being pushed on brown people the way it is. Like this is like everything is being pushed at once, and that's why the music is the way it is. They want to make sure they completely change who these folks are, especially with these newer generations. Okay, the brown people who were born during this time, and the millennials and the Gen Zs or whoever you want to call it, they are actually the ancestors. They're actually the ancients. I'm ancient too. Uh, but this was done by design because the brown people that's born during this time and the ones that was born probably during the 2000s and 90s or maybe 2000s, they're actually the real ancient gods, okay? And I hate, once again, the God is not an appropriate term, but that's just what people use today. God is like a fallen state, okay? And from what I heard, God is the name of some ancient, some German deity, so that's not even a proper name for brown people. But that's just what people use today, so that's what I'll just use. So that is by design that the music has deteriorated too, because a lot of those artists that you see that look zombied out, they're actually the ancient gods, okay? And women too. They're actually the ancient gods. I remember this is the guy, Bro Yosef. His page, his channel is called New Life Tools. That's NU Life LYFE and Tools TOOLS. He talked about his daughter, how he could tell that even though that's his daughter, he could tell that his daughter was way older than he was, right? Because she is one of the ancient gods. And that's why this is being purposely done to doing everything possible to make sure that these generations of brown people to make sure they stay low in vibration, and they never rise up. And it's getting so much so to the point where they are completely different people. And it's almost like they have to come back to who they are. Like they have to come back to themselves. Like they are so far from who they are that they are a different species. Like they're literally a different species. Okay? That's what I mean by that, because I kind of realize that the physical reality is not real. So when I talk about genetics, I certainly don't mean physically, because right now a lot of people are lost in the mind, and so I'm literally talking about the mind. I'm literally talking about the mind. But the mind, once you realize it doesn't belong to you, it almost has to be cottonized like everything else. The mind is not, this particular mind, in this fallen state that we've been using, that's the ego, it doesn't even belong to us. But we treat it like it belongs to us, and we have identified with it. And that is why brown people are so messed up. And until they connect with their true self and their true original intelligence, only then will they get back to who they were. Okay? But yeah, for the most part, yeah, they have been, it's like a puppet master. Like most brown people are under mind control. I remember uploading a video on my Divine Beingness channel titled Most Black People, okay, because I put the letters BP in there. So most black people are remote controlled. I uploaded a video on my Divine Beingness channel called Most Black People, but I put BP instead of spelling out black people. I said that most black people are remote controlled, meaning that their consciousness is hijacked and they're basically cloned. CLONED, cloned. but they can come back. They have to remember who they are. Something inside them has to wake them up. And once that little thing inside them, which is the real spirit man, touches them in such a way to try to wake them up, they're going to have to put the effort in to nurture their spirit. That's just what's going to have to happen. And if they don't do that, they'll never get back to who they are. That's just what it is, okay? That's what I had to do. Anybody who is recognized as one of the ancients, they're under attack. It's just what it is. And that's why I don't get into all these videos. I understand manifestation. I understand all that stuff about programming the mind and all this stuff that a lot of people like to put up. But if you have been identified as one of the ancients, it's going to be a different spiritual battle for you. And you might be going through more things to other people because you have been identified as one of those ancients that they want to make sure do not rise up to who you once were, higher in vibration. Okay. But yeah, like I say, those brown people, they can get back to who they are. That spirit man is still going to try to tap them and tap them and tap them. But if they don't want to put in the work to nurture their spirit, because that's what they're going to have to do, and it's going to be very, very, very hard work. If they don't want to do that, then they're going to forever be lost. And that's it's no other way to put it. Okay. And with that being said, I will talk later.